everybody, to The Art of It All. I am Stephen Lynerd, looking forward to our first episode here on this series. It's a joy to introduce Chad McCullough, a dear friend and musical comrade and a colleague in the Chicagoland area. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the drive out. Elgin is far away from pretty much everything.
No.
But you're on your way. You're going further tonight.
I'm going, yeah.
So you have an interesting gig tonight. It's exciting.
I do.
So anyway, we know each other through, we've been on a couple of things together, but we've been sidemen for sort of some of the same band leaders, but we have not played too many things together except you've come and played church songs.
Yeah.
But, so how long have you been, tell us a little bit of how you landed here, where you're from.
I got to Chicago 6 years. Actually, last month was my 6-year anniversary. So,
congratulations.
Yeah, I made it.
You made it.
Did
you get a prize? Did you get a certificate?
Pin.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
And I moved out to Chicago from Seattle, where I was working and wanted to be more involved in the music scene. So. Chicago called to me for numerous reasons, and it's been fantastic.
Had you come to check it out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A couple different times I was out.
Okay.
I knew a lot of people working here, and so it was an easy decision to make.
Okay. Yeah. You drive out?
I did.
Wow.
I did. I've made the drive maybe only once.
Really?
Yeah.
One way or both around?
Only one way, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Was trumpet the first instrument? Is that where you started?
I started on piano.
Okay. That's a common story, isn't it?
Yeah. My grandmother had a little organ, and it had a card that you slipped over the keys that were color-coded, and so that you had the books, and so you could play, and
phenomenal.
Like green, blue, and so that was how I started, and then kind of figured out I could just do this on. We had a player piano, like a pump piano at home, and so I could kind of do that. And that was how I started. And actually, I think maybe that's why I'm so visual that I have to think about a piano keyboard when I'm playing trumpet.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But in trumpet key.
So you're transposing all the time.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Wow.
Kind of. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just thinking A, but it's actually a G.
Oh, it's complicated.
So the only hard thing is if I'm playing piano and trumpet at the same time. I can't.
How often does that happen?
Not very.
Not very.
Because then I have to C in 2 keys.
It probably helps. You may have practiced that way, right? Have you sat at the piano and worked out some chords and played some things and just sort of, but not as a shtick, so to
No. Yeah, just
okay.
I'll hold something out and then play, but then I'm instantly
sure. Okay.
But never I'm playing this tune.
Right.
I'm not smart enough.
You're very smart. I'm sure you're plenty smart enough. Plenty smart enough to do it. So you are a performer, you are an educator, you are a sideman, and you are also a band leader, right? You have. Yeah. So tell us about that. Tell us about some of your band leader stuff. The groups that you are in charge of. You're assembling.
Okay. Well, I just did a new record actually a couple months ago, so it's being mixed and
we'll put that on the screen as you're talking about it, and
that means I have to finish it.
Well, any artwork you have, we can put on.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
All right, great. Send it to me eventually, or I'll just make my own for the sake of the podcast. And great. All right. Perfect.
That one's a quartet. I have done a lot of collaborations with friends in Europe.
Okay.
My first record is 10 years old now.
So that was in Seattle.
It was in Seattle. Actually, it had Jeff Bradfield on it.
Is he from Seattle?
He's not, but he was my teacher 20 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. And through a weird kind of situation, he was living in this small town near where I was. And so, anyway, I brought Jeff out, and we've stayed in good contact. For 20 years. And so, 10 years. don't know. I've done 5 records with Bram Weiters. One with a great pianist, McCullough. A couple, 4 or 5 with this band called Tunnel 6.
Okay. And what's the origin of? I mean, how are you getting to know these people in Europe, and how are those connections made?
So 10 years ago, I did the Banff Center workshop.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was like a huge thing for me for a lot of reasons. One, like, I got to meet all these really great people from all over the world who were also very great musicians, who shared like a passion of just playing, wanting to do it, you know, wanting to be great musicians. And I felt like in Seattle I wasn't surrounded by that as much, which sounds like a terrible thing to say, but it really, I mean, it is not at all a slight on, I mean, there's great musicians everywhere that are playing a ton,
right.
But to be in an environment where you could be creative with all of these people from all over the world and kind of figure out like, oh yeah, we're all the same, we're all,
right.
You know, it was really wonderful. And at the time I was working for a record label, Origin Records.
What were you doing for them?
Kind of everything.
Dusting.
Mailing. And yeah, shining shoes and answering emails and graphic design.
Great.
And going and getting lunch and making coffee. And, you know, it's a record label.
Hey,
it's small.
But you can say I was working at a record label.
For a long time. So 7 or 8 years. We would go to this big conference in France every year, and so I had a ticket to Europe paid, and so started kind of going early and collaborating with some of these guys that I had met at Banff, and it was just great. It just, so many things came out of that workshop that have since become kind of defined the last 10 years of my life. So
wow, it's really cool to look back on that and see something as an anchor, something that you now relate to, and you have commonality, and especially a geographic place.
Yeah.
As being as a visual, I think being in music, we're visual people. We associate music with a place or an emotion or something, and it's nice to, when you're making music, to probably look back and think of Banff as, wow, this is something that anchored where I am now.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to go back almost every year.
Okay.
I was just there a couple months ago, and
for something or just to go back?
Actually, to do research on a suite, writing a suite of music on all of these places and their effects, the Columbia River and its effect on these people and places, basically.
Wow.
And it was with this band Tunnel 6, who we all were at Banff together.
Okay.
And so that was great to like go and hike around. We spent the day there, and I was actually ruthlessly sick on the tour at that point.
Of course.
You know, still you get out and you climb the mountain and looking at all of that stuff, and it's stunning. It's such a special area of the world, and so like, yeah. Before then, I never would have thought like, oh yeah, you can write a piece about a mountain, and like that. It was too ethereal and too kind of. It just didn't make any sense to me. And then you go to these places, and it's like, oh, I get it. Yeah. This is what needs to happen, and this is how I can write, and it influences it.
We recently were at the Chicago Symphony, heard Pines of Rome, and then just researching what Respighi saw and what was in his mind is just mind-blowing.
Right.
I think geography is so important in music. Right?
And like you said, like so many people are so visual, either through like colors or just like scenery, spatial, like, you know, Sibelius is not going to write music that hurries.
Right.
Because you look out and it's just like...
Right. Yeah. Dvorak's New World Symphony, you know, had he been in Kazakhstan, it would have been a completely different symphony.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, the human condition.
Human condition,
in
indeed.
Visualized places, scenery.
So here's an interesting question. So, thinking about the recordings that you've done to date, including something that may not be out yet.
Yeah.
If you were only allowed to have recorded one album to date, would you choose the one you would have been allowed to record?
I'm pretty happy with this new one, but it's not done yet, so the last duo record that I did with Bram, called Pendulum.
Which is awesome.
Thank you.
I really like that record.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's all Bram. That whole record is Bram's magic.
Okay.
But I was really proud of that one, and how it came together was amazing.
Did you both contribute?
It's all his writing. It's a 25 movement suite.
But did you both contribute to the concept of wanting to do it, or did he contact you and say, "Be on my record"? Did you contact him and say, "Let's do something together"?
Well, we had been playing as a quartet for a long time, and with Belgian bass player Pete Verbeest and American drummer John Bishop, who ran the record label that I worked for. And so we had played, and it's kind of started as we could play these quartet tunes and kind of like go down to a duo for like little interludes into the tunes, or like segues between tunes with these duets, or the kind of duo. And so Bram started writing this stuff and kind of based somewhat on some harmony and some thematic variations from the tunes that we were using, or to get to that harmony. And I was getting into like a lot of effects and processing the sound.
Really? So like pedals that a guitarist would use?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, which, funny enough, a lot of it didn't make the record. But, you know, we had like a clean and affected thing. But in the live shows when we were working specifically on that material, it was great because I could, like, in a duo, just, you know, like Trumpet sounds it's so strident. And so to be able to, like, have some reverb and have some different parts where we would, like, have pitch generation so that I'd be in fourths or fifths or whatever.
Okay.
You know, like, it kind of created a different dynamic. And
did you, I've always wondered about this, when you're using effects and pedals and things with the trumpet, are you using a microphone that's clipped on so you get so you're getting continuity rather than like a nice large diaphragm condenser microphone, but what if you move? So how are you doing that?
So in the studio, let's see, what did we do for that? We did, so I had the mic, just a clean feed, and then also the clip-on.
Okay.
I think. Or we just had two microphones, maybe.
Sure.
And they would be close enough, so it was fine. And,
got it. And
then I do all my stuff on the computer, because traveling, we did one tour with all my, like, stomp box pedals, and it's, to go to Europe, you have to have the power converters, and you have to have, you know, everything's like proprietary plug.
Right.
It is something you don't think about until you get over there.
So you're all like, digital on a laptop. That is nice.
Yeah, it's much better.
What program do you use for that?
I use like a Native Instruments thing, which is
Yep.
old and out of date,
But it works.
Totally works, and I can change the stuff. I'm not smart enough to do like the Ableton and Pro Tools.
There are people who have recorded entire albums with nothing but an SM57 and going into a free software program, and it charts, you know. So I think it's what you do with a product.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to have good sound. You have to make good music.
Yeah.
But there is so much, especially now. You can do anything, almost anything.
Yeah. I mean, and like, you know, the hardware is getting good.
Yeah.
And my clip-on mic that I use, I love. I really love it. So.
All right.
That kind of stuff.
Now, more specific.
Yes.
So, from what you've recorded to date,
Mm-hmm.
if you were only allowed to have recorded one tune, one track in your entirety, what would it be so far in your life? One track of your entire discography, what would it have been?
I don't know. And I think that I don't know because there are certain moments in tunes that I have recorded that I actually really enjoy, which over 25 records, I can think of maybe 3 or 4 second moments where I go, I did the right thing there. Turns out. And a couple of those are on the Pendulum record.
Okay.
That I feel like where the music was happening at the right time together, and it just all kind of came together. But if I had to pick one track, I don't know. Also, I this is a hard question to answer because, like, for example, some of that record specifically was very ethereal, and it came across really, really well. Some of it was much more like, okay, we're playing this piece of music together. It's very, what you would expect from trumpet and piano playing together two jazz musicians, But some of it was lots of affected trumpet, and I was kind of playing in a different kind of breathy way, and Bram's using lots of distortion and Rhodes and whirly, and it's just a different thing. So I don't know. You know, sometimes I like.
It's a hard question.
Yeah,
it's a very hard question.
What would be your track?
That's a hard. I'm really glad you asked that. Dang it! It is a hard question. There is at the end of my Christmas album is a version of Silent Night.
Yeah. That
was recorded really without my brother and I realizing it. So we were recording in Dallas, and we had recorded a Christmas album. We're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do something with Silent Night? What I didn't realize that the engineer at the time never once, from the beginning of the session to the end, ever stopped tape.
Wow.
Ever once.
That's kind of cool.
Ever once. Like, he never said, we never had to say, and as I look back on it now, I never realized, I probably said to him, hey, are we rolling? And every time he probably just said, yep, you're good. As an engineer would.
Yeah.
Without, there was never a, because when you're in the studio, sometimes you have, all right, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're good.
Right.
There was never that. It was like, yep, you're good. We rolling? Yep, you're good. So he just rolled.
Yeah.
And he might as well have gone to lunch and came back. And so Ben and I just started, without music, without anything written down, just started going through Silent Night.
Yeah.
And we ended up just starting to play it.
Yeah.
And we got to the end, and he gets on the monitor and just said, don't do anything else. Leave that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to this day, it is...
That's
it's the most downloaded track that I have.
Wow.
And there are several musicians for whom it's become like a pretty special thing for them. People I've never even spent a lot of time with say, hey, that track means a lot to me. I love it. And it's just pretty. It just worked.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of these things that just worked because people were listening to each other and thinking and tracking the same way. So I would say so far today that Silent Night track is pretty special to me for those. And it's always for these different reasons.
Yeah. It's
not because I played every right note.
Yeah. It's never the product; it's the process.
Yeah. Oh, that's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So on this Pendulum record, for example, there was 25 tracks.
Okay.
And they're short, 2-3 minute things, Bram we'd get home from a gig, I'd go to bed, and Bram would write like 2 more things.
Okay.
And we did...
While you were sleeping.
Yeah, of course. I'm a trumpet player. I don't know what's going on. And we did 6 or 7 the first day. And I remember we went home that night, and I was like, I mean, we've done some pretty brilliant stuff. Like, pulled off these crazy things in different parts of the world and whatever. And it was like, I do not know if we can make this happen. Like, we have 8 hours tomorrow or something to do 21 things. And, it's not, it's a small budget. It's, it's us paying for all of this stuff. And so we got there and just started working, and it was like, all right, yeah, cool. Next, go. Do the thing. All right, yeah. All right, let's fix that. Go. And, we did it. And I think kind of with everything, you get home that evening and you're like, I don't remember.
Right.
Did we, what? And so then to like tour this music, it's been like, wait, what is this song? What is, and then, you listen to the record and it's like, oh, that's incredible, because you're just kind of, you're there and it's a moment, and it isn't about this preciousness of it has to be perfect, it has to be this thing. It's just kind of like, here we are, this is what we did, good, go, next, go. And then after the fact, you listen back to those and it's pretty special. Yeah. Always. Almost always.
What do you want people to listen to? So like you describe these moments, and when you hear these tracks later on, you're like, oh yeah, that. And you can put yourself in that studio. You can put yourself with the lighting exactly how it was, the layout. Yeah. You can see Bram. You can see the engine. You can see all these things. Yeah. And then you're also hearing what you want to hear out of the music. What do you want? Obviously, not everyone can record with 80 people in the room like Snarky Puppy. So, what do you want?
Isn't there 80 people in that band?
It's bonkers. What do you want people to listen to? Like when someone were to put on, let's say you were sitting right here with someone and they put on the duo album. Would you want to talk them through it, or would you want them just to fend for themselves?
No, every time I've tried to write programmatic music, or any time it's not our job to tell people what to think as musicians.
Yep.
Because everybody experiences it so differently, and when we have tried in different bands or whatever, different kind of compositional suites, and this is, we're doing this thing, it doesn't work. And then when you don't tell people something, it does. It's much more effective, I think. And until you are Respighi and you're going, this is actually what I was thinking about, Pines of Rome.
Just sit here and think about it.
Here's the Great Gate of Kiev.
Correct.
Like, you're going to sit here and you're going to know exactly what I'm writing about.
Exactly.
And for me, I don't have, it's not that I don't have faith in the music, but I don't have faith that I know it's best for people. Like, if I would, and I think also, like, for me, if I listen to a really moving piece of music, I listen to it over and over again and get different experiences out of it. I don't get the same experience at the same part of Adagio for strings.
Correct.
Like, it's beautiful, and I'll listen to it right now, but it's not the same as the first time I heard it. And is it Platoon? Is that?
Yeah.
That's the score, right? And that it's so effective because, like, it's this heart-wrenching scene and everybody's dying and it's playing and you know it's like no, don't play the song. It becomes a character, or like it's this serene calm at the beginning and it's still that song. And
but it wouldn't have the same effect if you're sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings with a brew, and if Adagio for strings come on, I mean, it's the context is so important too, right?
Absolutely.
Like when you're recording some of your chunks, do you the hope is that, I don't know, sometimes the hope for me is that people will sit down with a perfectly spaced pair of reference monitors in a quiet environment and hear every nuance and hear the stereo panning and hear the quality of the microphone and hear everything, but you can't always assume that people are going to listen to that.
No, they're going to listen on their iPhone speakers while they're driving down the road.
Right. They're going to YouTube your song, and it's going to be in the cup holder, or coming through your Bluetooth and road noise. And is that?
That's why there shouldn't be any bass solos anymore, I guess.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Yeah, that one's not getting edited out at all. Yeah, there should be no.
I'll never work again.
You'll never work again.
I mean, I don't know if anybody listens to music. Like, they hear music. The hope is that people listen.
I don't listen to jazz in the car, rarely.
Yeah.
Or classical music in there. It's too dynamic.
Yeah, I rarely, or if I do, somebody else my girlfriend will get in the car and she'll be like, "Why is it so loud? What's going? What were you doing?"
You're having a rave in here?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I'm just listening to this
Why is it
string
so
quartet.
loud?
Sorry. So I think, I will say this. I got better at music and understanding music when I finally sat down and listened.
Yeah.
And like made it a point to like get some nice headphones
Yeah.
and sit down at night, come home from a gig and listen to Crescent or listen to, a record and just sit. And even now, like I love vinyl. I love, I've got, I think we have 3 turntables in our house now. And our house is like the size of this table. So
your speakers are bigger than.
Yeah. But the time of just one side of a record is perfect for like attention span.
Right. It's
And
great.
then
23 to 25 minutes.
It's great.
Yeah.
And then you get up and you pour in a drink and you flip the record and you sit down again and go, okay, now it's this journey. And I think that's totally lost, and that's a drag. And it's a lot to ask of someone's time to be like, hey, you should check out my record.
Yeah.
And I think that people take that. Musicians don't think about that.
Right.
We just assume that people are going to listen to the stuff that you made with a 57 and GarageBand or whatever. Right. And it's crazy. It's not.
Do you have a go-to search that if someone was tied to your hip, they would be like, all right, you listen to this way too much every time you get in the car. But like when you get in the car or when you're like, maybe let's be specific with the car. Do you have either YouTube or iTunes or Amazon? Do you have wherever you get your music from, when you're going to be driving, do you have a go-to thing that you do more than anything else? Is there something you search for musically or you put on more than anything else?
I think it kind of is like a moving spotlight, but it's still stuff. In the last year, mostly Coltrane Quartet.
So jazz more than anything else.
Yeah. Miles.
Okay.
Not a lot in the car.
Yeah.
It depends on what project I'm working on.
Yeah.
Like if I'm trying to memorize some music,
right.
Then I'm trying to work.
Absolutely. If you're studying, that's one thing.
Yeah, exactly. I listen to a lot of podcasts about music and interviews and that kind of stuff. Yeah, because I want to take advantage of my time where I actually am I could be a captive audience for something.
Correct.
So
it's a nice philosophy. I want to be a captive audience for someone else's creative work, and that's an attitude more musicians could adopt, more general public could adopt. I want to be a captive audience.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm going on a journey.
Right.
I'm okay to wherever this goes. I'm okay with it.
When you playing live is your main. You do a lot of playing live.
Yeah.
Do you see playing live is different from playing in the studio? They're for different ends.
Yeah.
When people see you and hear you live, what are you trying to communicate? What are you wanting them? Obviously, you said earlier we can't tell people what to think, but as a performer, we're there. We can't be a bump in a log. What are you hoping that people hear in your tone, in your musicality, in your performance? What are you hoping people take away?
Something. Like there's something there. Okay. I don't know what it is, but that's what my hope is, that somebody walks away going, that was something.
Yeah.
That was either good or bad. Like if somebody feels something, that's the point.
Yeah.
You look at a painting, you don't like it. It's not a bad painting. It made you feel something. Like.
Yeah. I've heard some of the great actors of our generation in interviews saying, when I play a villain, I want people to absolutely hate me.
Yeah.
And those are the ones, like you watch a movie, you watch something, and it's like, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Good. That's exactly what he wants you to feel. Right. And, it's... Do you channel any of your... not idols, but do you channel any of your influences in your own playing, or do you save that for the practice room and then try?
It's practice.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in the moment, in everything, I want it to be the right thing. Like, and it could be something as certain, things. It's like, okay, I just need to play in tune with this trombone player right now.
Which is, they can just move around.
Yeah, it's a tuning slide.
Come
Should
on.
Should be easier.
You're holding on to it. You never let go.
Yeah. Let's see, bass players hate me. Trombonists hate me.
Yeah. I mean, I can't do a thing.
Yeah, no.
And that ships from the factory A442. So pianists hate me. And flute duets are completely out, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, they just can't push in anymore.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing.
Me neither.
The struggle is
it's funny, like, I think that whatever it is that we're doing, like, you want to bring honesty to it, even if it's recording in a big band or recording a solo piece or and in any setting, like, your role, you have to be true to that role.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that I have done in the past, that that a lot of the stuff that pays money in our business is not necessarily, we need you to sound like you.
Right. Be yourself.
Yeah, and especially as a trumpet player, like, I for a long time took a lot of pride in the fact that I could do all these different stylistic things and sound appropriate here and appropriate here.
Yeah, you knew a Maynard shake versus a Kenton shake and all that.
Yeah, and now, in the last few years, of course, like, I've dialed that much back to go, this is the kind of stuff, like, if somebody wants me on their project, they actually want me on their project.
Right.
And that's a huge thing of, I don't know, that I've thought about and really worked on. I don't even know what that is, but it's that direction of,
sure,
So if somebody comes to see something live, hopefully there's that something that makes them go, they've felt something. And then the band, because of, I don't think it's ever like me. It's maybe something that I did that this guy reacted to, or that this guy did that I react to, or this girl does something, whatever, like that interplay and that, like, listening, that interactivity, that's what would be cool that people walk away from.
Do you talk to your students about this? What would you say to a younger trumpet player who's in where you were years ago, who's working on emulating different styles and doing their homework and studying Miles, studying some of these greats, but how do you then transition to taking the best of and making your own sound? How do you do that? How do you teach that?
I think that that's a scary thing to try and teach, because there's an element of, it's very easy for that to be an excuse. Just my own sound. And it's like, you just haven't done your homework.
Okay.
In terms of, like, a student, like, well, I'm trying to work on, how do you work on your own sound? Like, you don't. You sit and you listen to Cannonball Adderley for 100 hours a day for 6 years.
Right.
And you come out and you'll sound pretty good.
Yeah.
And you'll play 1,000 gigs with all of these different people. For us, like, our age, we don't get to go tour as a sideman. Like, we don't get to be on the road 200 days a year with someone, right? Or it's much less common. You might do a weekend somewhere with somebody of stature or somebody who has done some things.
Right.
And so, like, our dues paying looks much different than what our heroes' dues paying was.
Sure.
And, I wonder, like, how much these guys were worried about what they sound like versus, I got to keep the gig. I'm very worried about sounding great and being appropriate for the gig. And, for us, it's 20 years of playing gigs we don't necessarily want to do.
Right.
and for the gigs that we do want to do, so that we can show up and give that music whatever it needs. And I think if you think about it that way, then you always have your own sound. Your own sound just gets better.
Right. I think as being artists, it's leveraging one thing for another. So you're leveraging the jobbing, you're leveraging some of these gigs that really pay, so that you can then focus on your own individual things. And it's important to find that balance, to be able to leverage one for another, rather than get sucked into just a spiral of, I don't know where I am, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't like this music, I can't play Uptown Funk one more time or I'm going to kill myself.
Absolutely.
I think it's important for artists to be willing, and it's a humble thing to do.
Well, I think it's also, with a lot of these different genres, for example, like the product needs to warrant something, and everyone's attention is like we said, nobody has time to sit down and listen to music. It's their time is valuable. It's as valuable as yours and mine is. And so when you actually want to have an artistic thing and you're a student, is it really worth somebody paying you $10 and 3 hours of their life? Like, is it really that good if you're sitting there reading music, And I had a lot of struggles with that myself. Like, is this, why am I not whoever I want to be? And it's like, it's actually just not good enough. This is not good enough. And not that everybody who has everything that we think of is good enough, but a lot of it is. Like when you see, people giving money to these people, there is an element of something that is good enough. And I think that's that individual sound. That's that, whatever it is. And it doesn't come from focusing on sounding a certain way. Or it, let me say this. There are like certain people that are of my age who are quite successful now, who have only worked on their thing for the last 10 years, 15 years. And it's been really cool to watch them. It's a different path from like me as a working trumpet player, where I have to play this, and then I'm doing this, and then I'm, very like a brass quintet gig in the afternoon, and a wedding and then a church service the next morning, and then a small group jazz gig that night, and that's a weekend, and that's enough that I can survive. And if I had only done one of those, I might have to make some other choices in order to survive. And it's ultimately like your heart and your mind and your focus goes towards one. And that maybe is a little more nourished, and the path is a little slower, but it gets there.
As I look at the music, that's some good stuff. As I look at the music scene, pop music is essentially written for someone else. It's written purely for someone else's enjoyment. Let's get that download record on iTunes, and let's dance and let's sing along. And you listen to pop music, and it's not always as personal because you don't even know who wrote the stuff half the time. I mean,
probably all the time.
Right. But with your world, with jazz and writing these things, are you writing and performing a lot of this stuff for you? And if people enter into that with you, great. Are you, when you're thinking, when Bram is writing, when people in your world, are they writing for others, or you wanting to now get away from that weekend hall and express yourself for you, or is it a mix of both?
Well, on this quartet thing that I did, which is Matt Ullery and Rob Clearfield and John Dynamire.
Basically, just the worst band you could ever think of.
Yeah, everybody else was busy.
Everyone else was busy.
Everyone. No, I mean, those guys are incredible.
They're amazing.
And listening to it like that what happens in the music is so unique and such a special thing that like what I wrote didn't even matter at some point.
It's an amazing feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like it's great. It's like this selfless thing of just like a collection, and this is where we are at this moment, and this is what we're all doing, and we all, now we're here. That flexibility as a musician like is on full display, and I don't know, for me, like, it's, maybe someone will hate it and maybe someone will enjoy it, and I certainly didn't have anything in mind other than I'm writing this piece in somebody's attic while I'm on tour with my little keyboard, and it's kind of this vibe. Yeah. And it's kind of brown and yellows and gold, and okay,
great, let's do it.
Yeah.
But see, so that a description like that, I think, is really special. Sometimes I wish artists would convey to an audience more in a performance. Like, let's say, especially at a cool, intimate venue like Constellation or some of these places where it's a real listening room and you're releasing your things, like, even just saying, hey, these are some of the colors I was thinking about when I was writing this, or this. I'm not telling you what to listen for, but in some ways you almost have to, because you don't have to, but it could be helpful for them to be on a journey with you.
Yeah. I think Miles Okazaki does that on his scores. Okay. He writes a color or mood or whatever.
Sure.
It's hard. I have no charisma in speaking to an audience. I'm very awkward.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I legitimately wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, I am awkward.
But you're very likable.
Nah, that's debatable. I think that part of it is sometimes people want to be told, and sometimes people just want nice stories. Like, stories are effective.
Yeah. And
I've seen great artists tell these like heart-wrenching stories, and then they play the tune.
Yeah.
And then everybody wants that CD at the end of the night. And I can't. That my speaking to the audience is like, this one's brown. Here we go. And
I doubt it would be that bad. I doubt it would be that bad. Really glad you're here.
Brown song. Yeah, but I think that's also part of the problem is, like, we have inspiration and then we turn it into chords and harmony, and it doesn't translate that way for people. Like it does for us. We think about, like, this is about my dog, and it's called Dog Song. And then you play, and it's like, what? That's, nobody knows what your dog is.
Have you ever thought about having someone narrate a concert? Someone with a very pleasing, articulate voice. Not to say, now Chad's going to play this, but just like, maybe your songs are introduced, and Misa just like brainstorming. Like, there's poetry that describes your songs, and then they simply recite that or simply articulate that, and then you present. So everyone's putting their best foot forward, and no one is put in a position of like, okay, now I'm just going to shoot this mood to bits.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. It's interesting.
I think that, like, well, and maybe that's part of it, is like so much of music has been presented so poorly.
Yeah.
And
it's good music presented poorly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and an interesting thing, I went to a taping of a podcast a couple of years ago, and the first half was comedy, and it was like kind of local, politically based, Chicago, like funny.
Okay.
Ram did this.
Got it.
Whatever. Construction. And then the second half was extremely, extremely heavy political, like, this is what's happening in these regions in the world that we don't, that aren't in the forefront of our news cycle. And like, oh my God, I didn't know that this is, just like this. And it's interesting, like that pairing of the comedy to kind of draw you in and open up, and then to just be this heart-wrenching, intense kind of thing, right? Yeah. Which emotionally charged stuff. And I think, like, back to like Newport Jazz Festival was presented with comedians, and then it would be like 1966 John Coltrane, like, and the pairing of that, and the like, when we hear live recordings from a lot of our heroes, as they're presenting this music that they're presenting, that is extremely like high level, masterful works, they don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it should speak for itself. And if I have to tell you that this song is called Dog Song and it's about my dog, and then you think about your dog, it's like, well, wait.
There's a conflict.
You should think about the music,
right.
and you should believe that music enough to just say, here we are.
Yeah.
Go. And that's a different thing with like pop music, where like, you've seen big rock acts, you've seen big pop bands, and they'll sometimes have like some sort of political message or some kind of, social justice kind of line weaved into some of the, or they'll tell a story of something that happened. I've seen Pearl Jam, and Eddie Vedder talks about being younger and broke.
Sure.
And, Bono will go on these tangents about these causes. And I think at a rock venue, at an arena, and you're somebody that's an icon of that cultural whatever, fine, do what you want to do. But like, as a jazz musician, the hope should be that the music is strong enough, And I have seen things that have been narrated. I know like Charles Lloyd would like, comes to mind. He would like recite, but it would be like free verse poetry as part of the composition.
Yeah.
And I think that that's maybe more effective than a narrator talking about the tunes.
Understood. Yeah.
I've seen people talk about the music, and
sometimes when they're done, you don't want to hear it.
Yeah, right? Like, we're not, I saw your Robert Frost book.
Yeah.
Like, we're not Robert Frost.
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to be this eloquent thing. It's going to be me going,
Brown.
Brown song, I don't know what's happening. And then trying to play and recover from that mental, like, I got to talk to people. Yeah, and it's, I think, even the way, like, the when you listen to music from, and I keep going back to, like, Miles and Coltrane.
They're not bad people to come back to.
Turns out, no. Yeah. But, like, the way that they move between songs, like, it doesn't need to be these formats that we hold so dear in our educational system because they're easy to grade.
Yeah.
It can just move, and now we're in this space, and now we're in this space, and we call it footprints or whatever, but now it's gone, and now it's this thing. And
because people are going to play that tune. That's the other thing. People are going to play your tune down the road years. Hopefully they'll be playing your music in 50 years, but like they might do a completely different take on Dog Song than you ever intended, but that's like, maybe we'll, I'm going to play Footprints in 4, and well, I was never meant to be in 4, but you're not around to argue it, and this is what it means to this person. Wow.
Or hopefully they just write their own music, and they go, I kind of get this thing, I want to do it different.
Yeah.
And that's maybe cooler. I mean, I want the royalties.
Right.
I want the performance.
Right.
But, like, why should they be playing? And I mean, full disclosure, I love playing Footprints.
Right.
For example. I just did a concert of all kind of blue music, and like, it's kind of silly. It's kind of silly in a way. Like, there's no reason. Like, it's not going to be better than the record. Everybody loves the record. Why are we doing it? But people do enjoy that,
and that could serve to open up people's eyes.
Yeah. So. And it's a little different, or it goes this direction, or whatever it is. It's it's our version of these tunes in that moment, and there's something to it.
I'm glad places like Jazz Record Art Collective, and I'm glad they're doing those kinds of things. I think it's important.
Mm-hmm.
but I also think it's important to be doing your own music to be having your own voice. And speaking of which, give us in the last couple of minutes, give us the rundown on the new record. Give us anything you want to tell us about it. When to look for it.
I don't know yet. It's super fresh.
Is it It's all recorded.
It is recorded.
When was it recorded?
The end of May, beginning of May. I think.
Where? In Chicago?
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's why Rob couldn't do that gig I asked him to do. Thanks. Sorry, I'm all day in the studio. It was your fault.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry.
So, and where in Chicago?
Transient.
Great studio.
It was fun. It was the easiest recording session I have ever done. Like in and out in like 7 hours, 6 hours.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So I am scraping up stuff to finish it now.
It's all your original compositions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it's a vibe, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Cool.
I feel like, yeah.
So. Do you think, okay, I'm going to get this one done, and maybe in a year I'm going to try another one, or do you think this is the project, I want to let this sit, I want to let this air, and...
actually, so my first record came out, and I was at Banff, and I got a little box of them. I was really excited. And I got them shipped up to Canada, and the first person I saw that morning was Dave Douglas. He ran the thing. And I was like, Dave, I want to give you my first copy of my first album. Like, this is...
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's a moment.
Yeah. So I give it to him, and he goes, yeah, cool. You did it. You put out your first record. Tonight, you get to go home. You get to have a beer. You get to go, you did it. Tomorrow, you have to start working on your next one. And
thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, I'm tired.
Next.
Yeah, and that was like, it was such a moving thing. And you look at his career, and he's so prolific.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, he's just going, and doing like so much stuff, and being so many variations of himself as he does it, and it's incredible, and it's inspiring, and that kind of was the thing where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, just keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Sure. You don't get to look back and go, maybe in a year I'll do a different thing.
Yeah.
Like, you do it now.
Yeah.
And stuff moves faster now, and we as creative people, I don't think it's a relevance thing so much as just, this is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
So it's important, like, and life can get in the way and whatever, but it doesn't matter. You have to just, okay, this is where I am now. This is what I'm working on.
And life getting in the way might help influence a song, influence the way that you're approaching it. It has for me.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, has changed. Moments, stress has influenced how I'm going to practice. And
how you approach what you're doing.
Yeah.
I have an hour and a half.
Right.
I have to get some work done.
Exactly.
I'm turning my phone off.
Yeah.
Love
it.
Or I have 4 hours. What do I do?
Right. Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's important.
Yeah. So. This has been really special. Thank you for being my first guest.
Thank you.
And man,
it's all uphill from here.
It's all uphill.
Yeah, I promise.
I can sit back tonight and think, there, I did it.
Yeah.
Now I got to get working on the next one.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Chad, very much.
Thank you.
And we'll make some music together.
Good.